guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hulu recently released the thriller No Exit, which is based on Taylor Adams' best-selling novel of the same name. The book was one of my favorite reads of this year, and I was super pumped about the movie. In this video, I'll be comparing the book versus the movie and letting you know if both are worth your time. So let's get into it. So No Exit is a thriller published by Taylor Adams in 2017. It centers on a young college student named Darby who is on her way to visit her mother who is sick in the hospital, and she gets caught up in a blizzard and is forced to pull over at a roadside rest area where she meets 4 other strangers. When she goes outside to find some cell reception, she notices a little girl is tied up in the back of somebody's van. From there, it's up to her to save the girl and figure out who's responsible for the kidnapping. So as I said before, I read this book earlier this year and it quickly became a favorite. It is fast-paced, shocking, gruesome, and it's just over-the-top thriller goodness that I love and crave. It truly felt like a throwback to thrillers of the early 2000s. This is truly a page-turner. I felt like there were shocking twists and revelations with every page and chapter, and the way that each chapter ends, it almost ends on like a cliffhanger, so you're forced to keep going. I could not put this book down. No Exit is filled with a ton of dread and atmosphere and moments that made me physically sick. It's surprisingly violent, it has a strong female character, and it has a horrendous villain that almost has a supernatural quality to them, kind of like Freddy or Jason. Like, they will not go down, they will not die, and they won't stop. And that was what made the book so exciting to read, because every time you think our main character is getting ahead of the game, she gets sucked right back in because this villain is hot on her heels, and it's just such a fun cat and mouse game. There are plenty of over-the-top action scenarios, and it's all taking place in snow, so there's that extra added element of danger, and it has a really rewarding conclusion. It is honestly one of the best thriller books I have ever read, and I highly recommend it to everybody. So now moving into the film. This film recently premiered in 2022 from 20th Century Studios, and it premiered on Hulu. Stars Havana Rose Liu, Danny Ramirez, Dennis Haysbert, Dale Dickey, and Mila Harris, and is directed by Damian Power. It's also produced by a writer of Logan, and the screenplay was adapted by the screenwriters who wrote Ant-Man. The movie was filmed in New Zealand, and it's a quick 90-minute thrill ride. So the movie follows pretty much the same premise, but it changed a few things up, especially with our character of Darby. Darby is still the same age, but she is a recovering addict in this story, and that plays a factor into her relationship with her mother, who is still sick, and she's trying to get home to her. I think that this movie is definitely an entertaining watch. It's suspenseful. It has those over-the-top action sequences that we get in the book. It also has the shocking twists. It has great cinematography, and the cast is excellent. I think they all portrayed their characters very well. I've seen people describe it as a popcorn movie, and I think that's the perfect description for it. It's just one of those that you don't have to go in and think super hard about, and just lay back and enjoy. Overall, I enjoyed this movie for what it was. I think it's an entertaining, fun, thrilling ride. However, as a huge fan of the book, I did have some issues, and I feel like that made it a little bit harder for me to enjoy the movie more. So let's get into the comparisons. So both the movie and the book waste absolutely no time setting up the premise and introducing us to our main character, Darby. We know exactly who she is, what kind of person she is, and what her motivations are. And we also immediately get put in our isolated setting of the rest stop. I really like that both the movie and the book have Darby finding this little kidnapped girl almost immediately, and it sets the rest of the story in motion rather quickly. So there is no lull in the story here. It just keeps going from there. Now, I love the character of Darby. She is excellent in the book. I feel like she's super strong, independent, and resilient, and I do think that that's conveyed well in the film. However, I feel like she didn't get to shine as much in the movie as she did in the book, and that's to be expected. in the book, we get to get closer to Darby. We know her inner dialogue and her inner moments, and we really get to see her go through hell. And there's specific scenes in the book that weren't featured in the movie where it just really shows how dangerous of a situation she is in and how much she can handle. There's a moment where she is attacked by the villain and a bag is placed over her head and she can't breathe. And it is one of the most horrifying and intense sequences I've ever read in a book. It's so anxiety inducing, and it shows you how Darby thinks quickly on her feet. And that scene wasn't featured in the movie. There's another scene where Darby is speaking with the villain and no one else is aware that what's going on between them. They're saying things to each other without saying things, and it is a super intense moment, and it results in a very violent act, and we didn't get that in the movie either. And those specific moments where it's just our main character and the villain mentally and physically sparring with each other, I just loved that so much about the book. We get more of a cat and mouse game than we did in the movie. I know we get a cat and mouse game, but it's just not like what it was in the book. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the suspense that was built in the book between Darby and the villain and trying to figure out who the villain is almost lost on the screen. It feels like we figure out the villain situation rather quickly, and I feel like in the book there was a little bit more time and mystery surrounding it. In the book, Darby gets the rug pulled out from underneath her when she realizes who is responsible for the kidnapping, and in the movie it just kind of happens and it's just like, oh, okay. I don't know, maybe it's because I knew what to expect because I read the book that the movie wasn't that surprising to me, but I didn't feel the same energy that I felt from the book. However, I do think the actress was excellent for Darby. She's very likable and you can believe that she's going through this hell. And you don't get this idea that she can take these people on by herself, that she's like got this ridiculous strength. Like, she is a real girl and she is getting beat up. She's getting defeated, but she still tries. She keeps going. And that's what I love about her. And I do think that they portrayed that very well on screen because the actress is excellent. She's got one of these charismatic presences that you can't help but root for her. As for the villain, I don't feel like the villain is very dangerous on screen in comparison to the villain in the book. In the book, the villain is insanely charming, but equally vile and just completely unpredictable and dangerous. And they're so violent and you're terrified of them and you know that they can snap at any moment. And in the movie, I never felt that sense of danger. I didn't feel like this villain was to the same level as the villain in the book. And in the book, we also get the backstory of the villain, so you understand their motivations and you know their history and how they got to this point, which obviously you can't really do that in the film, but I think that extra added element really let you know the character's psychology and made it the whole situation even scarier because you know how messed up they are. In the film, I feel like the villain was almost pathetic and dumb. The movie also had scenes that I didn't like. So there's a scene where Darby is in the breast area and she is tied up in a way by the villain and she has to act quickly in order to save her life and the little girl's life. And she snorts a line of cocaine to almost give her strength so she can handle the situation. And I felt like it was completely unnecessary and almost humorous, and it seems wrong. I mean, I don't know if drugs really work like that. I don't do coke. I never have. So I don't know if it works that way, but I wouldn't think it was. Does it give you superhuman strength within seconds? I don't know. But it was just a really ridiculous scene that took me out of the situation. And then the next scene that really bothered me is the young girl, the kidnapped girl, Jay. They show the situation where she becomes kidnapped and they portray her as this bratty little girl who is kind of bullying the kidnapper in a way to justify her kidnapping. At least that's what it felt like to me. It felt like they were saying this is why she deserved to be kidnapped, and that completely unnecessary. Jay is an innocent child. She's a victim and nothing justifies her kidnapping. And I didn't like it. That really sat wrong with me. I didn't like it at all. I also feel like we didn't really get to see the bond that's created between Jay and Darby in the book on screen. In the book, there's a very quick big sister relationship bond between Darby and the little girl. And the little girl is super intuitive and she's very caring and she really supports Darby as much as Darby supports her. So she doesn't feel as helpless as she does on the screen. On screen, she just feels like a prop. In the book, I feel like there was more to her and she was just as strong as Darby. Ultimately, I think the book is much better than the movie. I feel like a lot of book readers say that about things, and it's just in the book you get so much more. You get so much more insight into the characters, which is to be expected. So ultimately, I think the book is better than the movie. However, I do think the movie is an enjoyable watch for what it was. I think I would have liked the movie a lot more had I not read the book and fell in love with it. And I think that's just what my huge issue is that I just loved the book so much that it made me have really high expectations for the movie. With that said, I do think that everyone can enjoy this movie and enjoy the book. I do recommend reading the book if you watched the movie and loved it because I think you'll get a lot more from it. You might not get the shocks and twists because you know them from the movie. However, I think you'll be shocked by some of the stuff that happens, some of the violence that happens within the book, and you'll still have an enjoyable ride. I would love to hear your thoughts if you've read the book and also watched the movie. What did you think? Did you like the movie? Did you have issues with it like I did because I was a huge fan of the book? Did the movie capture the intensity of the book for you? Or do you like both? And I'm going to leave you off with my reading vlog of No Exit so you can see my first-hand reactions from it and you will see how shocked I was while reading it and how much I enjoyed the book. Please hit subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this from me, and I'll leave all my social links down below so we can connect on there and chat No Exit and other books and movie stuff. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.